Beats by Trill, straight Killerville, dog.
What's good? We back. Yours truly, one and only Paul Pickett, host of the Paul Pickett Podcast, aka Triple P, aka the Common Sense Podcast. Your source for music, sports, politics, world events, and much, much more. As you see, I got a special guest next to me right now. We got up and coming comedian, straight out of the Ville, the 2-6. We got Ryan Minton. Thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
That's what's up. I still got a little bit of my shot left. Let's go ahead and take a. Cheers. Whew.
Very interesting.
That was the Dizzle. I think it's got the coolest liquor brand name ever.
Nice, good label too, man.
Appreciate it.
Take that label.
How long you been doing this comedy thing now?
Like a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Yeah, and I do it a lot though, man. Like,
so what were you doing before that?
I mean, I used to do music and stuff years before that, and like back in the day. That's how I know like John Jones, like
okay.
From way back. But I used to be in bands for years, and ended up doing comedy one day just out of the blue, which is kind of weird, but I just been doing it ever since.
Okay. Wow. So a year now, you've only been doing comedy.
A year and a half. But I mean, I do it a lot. Yeah.
You go super hard with it.
Yeah, and I mean, because like I actually I host an open mic at the White Rabbit, like just a comedy open mic, like every week on Mondays. I was like hosting in a Fuquay Arena last week, just like as a good guest host spot. But I go to like Raleigh, Wilmington, Cary, like Kernersville, Southern Pines, like all over, like just like all over the state. But I'm trying to get out there, and that's kind of what you got to do, man. Because like when you're like trying out new material and stuff like that, you want to see what plays in different areas, because things that play in Fayetteville do not play in certain places. Like, and I will tell you that. Like, we know that
Fayetteville is definitely a market that's tough for everything and everybody and whatnot. So you're doing music. How out of the blue you decide I'm gonna just get into comedy? Were you already like writing jokes already? Were people saying, "Hey, you're funny," or did you already know you were funny?
Funny thing is like we actually had a repertoire like on stage, like we had like a rapport kind of thing, like with the crowd and stuff. We would actually like crack jokes and stuff on the mic and stuff, and a lot of our songs were funny, they were kind of like comedy, like joking, because I mean a lot of that music, like your metal kind of music and stuff like that, it's really serious and scary and all this stuff like that. And we're making like jokes about stuff, and it's just like kind of not taking it too like heavy, I mean you just like you gotta be a little lighthearted with some stuff, man. I mean it's just, but I ended up actually my friend Damian Lugo, amazing tattoo artist, brighter shade tattoos, took me to Patty's one day. Never been to Patty's. I had never been there one day. We actually went to go get food, and we popped up, and I had never been there. And I had seen something on Facebook where they had like a comedy night, and it wasn't even open mic. It was just like it's like book shows. I mean, they have like touring comedians and stuff like that. And I ended up talking to Patty Gibney, and I asked him about the comedy night, and he's like, "Oh, well, it's going, we do some stuff." And I started telling him some jokes, just, out of the blue. And he just kind of looked at me and he was like, "Hey, come back on a Thursday. Maybe we put you on stage." And I was like, "For real?" And then like a month later, like I was doing stand up, which is funny because they literally they threw me to the wolves, man. Like they put me up there first time ever. And it was, with a relatively clean comic called Andy Forrester from Raleigh, and he's hilarious. He's like a dry bar comedian, and Matt White from Raleigh, and I went hard, and it was a little. People were just like.
Now, when you mean hard, were you just kind of over the top with the content, and they just it wasn't so much as funny?
Nah, I mean, some people.
Too serious,
the
maybe?
funny thing is the guy, Andy Forrester, literally was cracking up, because he was, and I don't know if it was because he was like, Jesus, this guy or whatever, but I could hear him all the way in the back just dying, and it was some interesting content. But I mean, it was kind of right after the Dave Chappelle stuff, like where people are trying to stab him and stuff because he's talking about certain topics, and it's like, why? I mean, if you don't like that kind of stuff, don't go to a comedy show. It shouldn't be that serious. I mean, I believe, you should be able to joke about anything. I mean, it's like, but I mean, but you got to know the audience, let's just say.
Well, if you're at a comedy show, they should know that, you're pretty much, you're going to joke about a lot of things.
Yeah. But I mean, people take shit too seriously now, man. And people want to get out there and be like, oh, wow, I oppose this, or I'm showing everybody that I oppose this. Yeah. And it's kind of ridiculous, man.
And I totally hate the attack on comedy. I think, like, if we attacking comedy, everything's under attack then after that. I mean, because we got to be able to laugh. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how can you enjoy life if you're not laughing?
Exactly.
Like you say your first time they threw you to the wolves. Isn't every comedian or comedy person like their first time kind of thrown to the wolves?
Well, see, normally you start out like doing open mics and stuff like that. And
so you didn't start out that way. They just threw you into
and it was a packed house at Patty's. I mean, it was like a packed house, and it was just like, wow, and that's kind of how I started. I never did open mics. And then I started doing open mics, and I started doing a lot of open mics, and then I ended up running one. It just kind of fell on my lap, and I've had the only like weekly open mic like in Fayetteville for the like over a year. Okay, I've been running it like weekly every week for over a year, and I mean it's hit or miss. Sometimes it's on a Monday night, which is like is death. That is a horrible night. I mean, there's football, there's all this other stuff. People don't want to go out on a Monday, but people come out on a Monday. And it's mostly comics, and it's just you need open mics because you need to be able to try stuff. You have to work the stuff, and it's but it's just like you want to try it here, but I mean, Fayetteville's a melting pot. All right, because you literally have people from all over the country. So I mean. And it's the Wild West. I mean, like Patty, certain places, like you can say literally anything. Like my spot, we have a little bit of problems. But I mean, because sometimes the venue will set, like standards, and they're like, hey, you can't say this or you can't say this.
Oh, man, for real?
But sometimes it's like, it's obvious, it's like, I should not be saying that, It's like, I mean, there's certain things you just don't say. Yeah. But I mean, and sometimes, it presents problems. People have been banned, but not by me, by the venue. And I argue for the people. I'm like, look, it's comedy. You should be able to say what you want. But I mean, I've gone to Durham, okay, and they literally have on the sign up list. It's like, do not say this, do not say this, do not say this.
Like what kind of things?
Like literally on the list. It was this one place. It was the Moondog Meadery. All right, a meadery. Okay, it's in a basement, and I mean, it's a cool spot. But it literally says no racism, no transphobia, no homophobia. And I was like, well, I mean, it's kind of you don't need to tell people.
So basically any joke about trans, they're gonna label that as transphobia. Yeah. Transphobic, right? Yeah. And how do you like really dictate whether a joke is racist or not? Like, I don't know if you remember that Dave Chappelle episode, the little draft joint they had. Where they had the whites and the Asians, drafting people and whatnot, and they had Bill Burrs, and that's the thing. Like, there's so many things back in the days. Nowadays, like Tropic Thunder, with Robert De Niro,
Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, he couldn't do that nowadays.
No.
If he did that nowadays, they would just go batshit crazy, man.
But see, that wasn't even that long ago. Yeah, though. I mean, it wasn't even. And actually, funny thing is Tom Cruise was in that, and he was wearing a fat suit. That would be a thing now. Yeah. He's fat phobic or whatever. I mean, and he was also bald in it. So I mean, it's like you can complain about anything you want to, man. You can always find something to complain about, but why? Like, what's the root of you complaining about something? It's because you don't have a life and you want to tear people down. I mean, it's like, geez. It's the internet these days.
Is anybody really scared of fat people because they're fat? Like,
if they sit on you, I mean, or if they're in front of you at the buffet. I mean,
this is why I love interviewing comedians, man. Because I mean, yeah, I guess I would be scared, like if they sit on me and whatnot. But it's like you see a fat dude coming up. Oh my gosh, let me run! I'm scared.
He's not gonna run. I mean, obviously, obviously.
I mean, I can't run either because I got a better rod on my leg.
Oh shit.
But damn, I get you. Yeah, he definitely ain't gonna be running. Too much Krispy Kreme.
Shout out Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, definitely shouts out to Krispy Kreme. Have you always wanted to be a comedian? You haven't.
No.
Somebody...
I mean, I've loved comedy like all my life. Like the first comedy I ever remember watching was on Christmas Eve, okay, on HBO, and it was a George Carlin special.
Okay.
I was probably 7, which, I mean, chalk it up to bad parenting, because it was on Christmas Eve. We were at, Christmas, and I'm sitting there watching George Carlin just go off, and I mean, I came up on that kind of stuff. I came up on George Carlin. I came up on Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, kind of stuff like that. And then Def Comedy Jam, I came up on like, wow, and I watched that religiously, and then, like Chris Rock and stuff like that, get into like Dave Chappelle. And then, I mean, I ended up like taking a path into that to like Patrice O'Neal, Corey Holcomb, people like that. Patrice O'Neal would be canceled. Like now, he would be like, "Cool, fuck you." He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Like he would not care. They were trying to cancel him back then. He's like, "Do it. I don't care." And he's like, "I'm still gonna do what I do."
And I was late to the Patrice O'Neal party. I didn't really catch on to him till when he did the roast of Charlie Sheen, how funny he was. And then I started watching all his stuff, and he might have been the funniest dude on the planet before he passed.
Well, see, he had some stuff like there was a show called Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn. They used to come on, like I think it came on after Daily Show, maybe like on Comedy Central, like years ago, and had like Greg Girardo and stuff, and just like a kind of a revolving, level of comedians or whatever that would just show up, and he was like a standard on that, and he did some of his best work on that because that was just topic stuff, they would just go around, and he was on point, I mean, it wasn't material, he's just doing talking, and he was still hilarious.
So it seems like your journey into comedy is like my journey into music promotion. I never really like planned on it. It's just evolution kind of took over. I was doing targeted Twitter followers and just kind of got into the whole music promotion thing. So you kind of got thrown to the wolves. But after you get thrown to the wolves, you got to start sharpening your craft, practicing.
Yeah.
What's your process of that? Like, how do you do that? You get in front of the mirror, you recording content?
I drive around all day. I drive around all day, and I'm literally like talking into a cigar or a hairbrush. And I know people at the lights are like, this guy's crazy. And I'm like, and I literally work bits out. I mean, everybody... you need to write. I mean, you need to physically write, because that actually kind of opens your mind up, and you have like a bit, you write it down again, like you work with it, because like, I mean, most of my stuff is just like very, very offensive. I don't put a lot of clips up because I am very cancelable, but it's like, the thing about that is like, when you write stuff, like write it as offensive as you want, that's cool. Just maybe don't do it on stage, like you can always write out the offensive, but just try to keep the funny, and I cannot do clean comedy. I mean, I can't, I mean, even if I tried, I probably would just curse so much, in it, like on accident, but that's what you got to do is you got to work all that stuff out, and then you just got to keep it. And I mean, basically, when you're doing open mic stuff, that's what you're doing is you're working your stuff, you're working it. And like when you go to different places, like you literally see, like, I mean, I've done stuff, that got like tons of laughs here, like in Fayetteville. Yeah. Okay, I went to Raleigh, and I didn't even think I was, going that hard. And people were like, "Oh, nah, no," and honestly, I think all I said was gay. Like, I don't even. I mean, I just. And I didn't call anybody, I just said the word gay or something. They're like, nah, and I was like, okay. I mean,
it's getting really wild west out here.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, man. I mean, it's like, don't come. Why would you come to something like
that? Now your first show, you didn't write none of it, did you?
No, I actually wrote a set. I mean, I actually was sitting there. I had 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Open mics are like 5, like maybe. And you basically go to do that stuff. This was not an open mic. Well, I mean, the one guy was doing.
To write, though?
I had a bunch of. Well, actually, I just had some bits, and I was like, oh, hey, that's actually a joke, or hey, that's actually, and you know, you might not know it, but you know, sometimes people write jokes and you don't even know it, you know, and you're like, oh wow, that's, you know, there's a setup and there's a punchline, you know, and like, oh, okay, apparently I'm writing jokes.
And how typically long do you want each joke to be, like, to the build? You know, I know there's like a build up to it and stuff like that.
All depends, man. Like certain people are like one-liners, you know, certain people do one-liners. Some people are storytellers.
Yeah.
So some people will get up there and do a story.
Like Chappelle, he like to tell the stories.
Yeah. But he'll also, but see, the thing about that is, like, when you're doing storytelling, you have got to keep them, like, you got to keep their attention. So you want to do, you know, you want to get a joke here, joke here, joke here, joke here, because you want them to follow you. Because if you lose them, then they're going to be over here and you're going over here. And then it's like they're not paying attention anymore. Everybody's got short attention spans now.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
It's
I blame
social
media.
Phones.
I blame cell phones for that.
Yeah.
I make a living on the internet, and I never have the cell phone in my face as much as everybody else on the planet.
I stayed away from all of that stuff for years. I mean, I do look like the Unabomber, but I mean, I hate technology. I did not have the internet until 2020.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I did not have a smartphone until 2020. Okay. And like, I stayed away from all that stuff. I just stayed away from it. And now I'm like suckling at the teat like everybody else, you know, and honestly, I feel like I'm a worse person for it, you know, like everybody else. I blame the Kardashians.
Why do you feel like you're the worst person for social media?
Because dude, you have this thing.
Because everybody's so sensitive?
No, this thing right here, like, you have more computing power in this thing, okay, that you have in your hand or your pocket than they did when they put people on the moon.
Yeah.
You know, but we're dumber for it. Like, we're not doing,
I get you. Yeah.
You know, I mean, because you spend time watching. Everybody's got to post what they're eating and taking pictures of what it looks like when it comes out, you know, and it's like, Jesus, like, you're not that important. We don't care, you know, like, I mean, that's what it is. It gives everybody like an inflated sense of self. And I mean, it's not good.
Everybody thinks they can be famous on social media.
Look, when I got on social media, the first thing I learned is that everybody is a narcissistic person with, like some type of something, like I mean, like autism or whatever. Everybody's autistic. Everybody's narcissistic. I mean, that's the first thing I learned.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. How do you deal with hecklers?
Brutally. I don't really get heckled a lot. Yeah, I don't really get heckled a lot, but I will wreck you. Like, I mean, it's like, and I've seen, you know, I mean, the thing about that is like, everybody thinks it's cool now because of social media to go heckle people and stuff like that. And it's like open mics or like at bars or places like that, man. It's whatever, you know, people talk, you know, and stuff like that. If you're actually trying to involve yourself in it, like if a comedian asks you something, okay, you can answer. But if you're sitting in the front row and you just keep talking and you get wrecked, like, don't get butt hurt because it's your fault. If you're sitting in the front row, you're probably going to get made fun of anyway. That's the splash zone, you know, like, but don't get hurt. Like, don't get your feelings hurt, you know, because somebody went off on you because you wouldn't shut up. Yeah. You know, they're not there to see you sit in the front row drunk and talk. They're sitting there. They're there to watch a comedian. Okay. That's what they do. Yeah. And if you want to talk over them, maybe go to an open mic like everybody else did and then do comedy. Otherwise, shut up.
So you heard it, hecklers. Shut up. Watch the show.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely guessing you don't like hecklers.
I never really get heckled.
You never get heckled?
Never. I mean, and it's messed up because I say a lot of shit, you know, and it's like you would figure maybe, but I mean, I don't really have a problem.
Is that a good part of comedy though, the hecklers? I mean, does it bring extra entertainment or?
I mean, sometimes some people are good. Some people are good at that, you know. Like some people, I mean, have been made famous doing that, you know. But I mean, you shouldn't need to do that. Though.
I get that.
I mean, it's funny though. I mean, hell, I have no problem with it, you know. Like I literally don't mind. I watched somebody get wrecked for 10 minutes, like maybe a month ago, because they came to a comedy show and they wouldn't shut up. Yeah. And they wouldn't shut up. And they even like pissed off the headliner. And he was even like, hey, you know what? Whatever. Because he asked them a question. All right. So they thought it was cool to talk the rest of the time. Yeah. And he was like, you know what? Whatever. And he just started ignoring them and doing. The host got up there and wrecked this girl for like 10 minutes. Just wrecked her. And I was like, wow. I mean, and I got it. And it was funny because I actually knew the girl, but I didn't recognize her. Yeah. You know, because the lights were down and she was drinking. And she hadn't been drinking in a few years, so I didn't recognize her. Plus, she was fat, so I didn't, recognize her. But I would have literally been like, "Dude, shut up!" Like you don't stop talking, because you don't want what was going to happen, and it happened, and it just was an ugly situation, man. But I mean, hey, that's
now,
what you reap what you sow.
How often do you bomb on stage?
Oh, I mean, just depends. I mean, like I'm really good at that, you know, because like sometimes you'll go and it's funny because it doesn't bother me because I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say regardless.
How do you deal with it though?
I laugh. I laugh. I keep going. I'll sit there and be like, oh wow, you know, and it's funny because sometimes, you know, people are not really, they might not be feeling it or whatever, but like it's like sometimes it like it's open mics. They're just open mics, you know. So you do whatever. If you're doing an actual show, though, you know, sometimes it could be placement. It could just be you're not funny, you know. But I mean, if you go to a show, you know, where there's like actually booked talent and stuff like that, and you're like the opener or whatever. I mean, the host actually should be warming the crowd up, and you get up there, and it's just like. Sometimes at certain places, people aren't even paying attention for the first couple of comments because they're ordering their drinks or they're doing this or they're coming in and stuff like that. And it's just kind of to warm the crowd up, but it just all depends.
It's like the openers for the headliners on a music show.
Yeah, nobody watches them. Yeah, you know, it's like especially the bands that they're opening for because they're outside getting high or you know drinking outside, you know, or something like that. They don't pay it. You know, most people don't pay attention to that kind of stuff, but.
What's the funniest joke you've ever heard at just the local shows you've done?
Oh man, there's a lot.
What's the funniest joke that you think you've heard, or one of the funniest jokes you've heard?
I really couldn't even tell you, man. Like because and it's like other people's material. Too, so I could, you know, like wouldn't want to. Do
you try to model your styles after anybody, or is there anybody you typically really look up to and really really like? As a comedian that you think is just really the person to study?
Well, see, like I have such a weird array of people because that like I really, really like. So like I really don't have I definitely have a style, you know, and it's pretty much my own because nobody else would do that shit, you know? So, I mean, but it just, I have so many weird just influences that people I like, you know, it's just, but you never really want to model yourself after anybody because you want to be you know, you have to find your own voice. And if somebody's like, oh, he reminds me of this guy, then you're not you, you know, like you want to be your own person, you know, you want to have your own comedy voice to be like, to where people are like, oh, I remember that guy, you know, and maybe for better or worse, you know, because they might be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. He said some shit, you know. And
were you ever the classroom joker? Oh yeah. Is that a standard for comedians that they typically are the classroom joker or clown?
Yes, pretty much. Because I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of classes, you know. So I mean, they also aren't all funny, you know. Like I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I definitely was. I got in quite a bit of trouble for that.
So that's the standard. You started the music, you got into this comedy. If you weren't doing comedy, would you just still be doing the music thing? Or
I mean, I kind of got out of the music because it was just, we don't have a lot of good venues here anymore. We used to have like Jesters, and we used to have like the Rock Shop and places like that. And like when I used to play at Jesters like a long time ago, man. I opened for bands from like all over the world there, like in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I mean, I'm talking like Sweden and Canada and England and, you know, Norway, like stuff like that. And now we don't have like really anything like that anymore. And it's like, it was a good time, you know, like it was a really good time. And I'm like really glad that I got to like be in that part of time in this town to where like we had like so many shows and stuff, you know, happening here. And it's just gone now. I actually was at Hooligans in Jacksonville by Camp Lejeune, like North Carolina. And they're a big music venue. I've actually seen some pretty big bands there, but I actually got to do comedy there, which was crazy. And it's a big, big room and it wasn't packed, but I mean, there was a lot of people there. And I mean, it's a really good spot, but they don't do it a lot though. But shout out to Hooligans.
Is there anything you will never joke about?
No.
So everything's open.
Everything. And I literally push the limits too. Yeah. Sometimes maybe a little too far.
Yeah. Is that why? So I know you say like you don't try to get on social media because you feel like you're cancelable and whatnot, but isn't that something that could also give you an edge?
Well, I mean, I work on some stuff, but it's like I watch what I post.
Yeah.
You know, because you want to find a good clip of something, you know, but I do, because I've posted stuff before that I was like, ooh, I cannot believe I posted that, like clips and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm like kind of wanting to find that one right clip, and put that out, but just haven't found that one yet.
So what's the best thing about being a comedian?
Making people laugh, like entertaining people. Because I mean, that's really what it's about. I mean, it's like, it's not, I had to learn that the hard way. Like, cause I think, this is funny, this is funny, this is funny, but a crowd might not think that's funny.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like literally you are there to entertain them. It's about being funny, so be funny, try to be entertaining to people, I mean, being shocking for the sake of being shocking is just stupid. I mean, you can shock people or you can trick them into laughing at something that they shouldn't laugh at. And that's just like, wow, when you can do that to somebody, I mean, you can make a joke about abortion in front of like some liberal, like 18-year-old girl, and she accidentally laughs. And it's like, I got you, and like, it's just stuff like that, it's just, it makes it worth it. It makes it worth it.
And there's too much of that, like clickbait, clout chasing on the internet. Like everybody's trying to go for shock value instead of just trying to put out good quality content and whatnot. Now, what's the worst thing about being a comedian?
I mean, it's sometimes like there's not people there. Like, I mean, you traveling, man. Dude, I go like all over the state, man, like a lot. I mean, like I try, and I mean, it gets tiresome, know. And I mean, hell, I know a lot of comedians that go all over the country, and a lot of them drive, and that's crazy. I mean, a comedian at Patty's the other day was from Greenville, like came from Greenville to Fayetteville, went to Virginia the next day. So, I mean, it's just like, I mean, that's, in 2 days, it's just like, bam, like hundreds and hundreds of miles, in like 2 days just to do comedy for like 45 minutes.
And that's why I respect comedians, because the grind is like an actor's grind.
Yeah.
Like back in the days of actors, and some of them still do, they had to do Broadway for so damn long until you get to that point where people start recognizing. And because rappers and musicians, if they're not getting paid, they act like they can't do shows. But comedians, you always got to keep sharpening the skills, right? You got to really stay on top of your craft.
Well, see, that's like I was saying, open mics are not paid. You do that, but that's what you're doing. You're doing it it's practice. And it's like it's work. I mean, you're doing the work. It's like that's what you're doing. You're putting in the work because to make yourself better. Because you have to try stuff in front of people, because otherwise you don't know it's going to work.
So, what was your best audience so far, you think?
Oh man, like I've had some really good ones at Patty's. Like I've done really well at Patty's a few times. Like when there was a packed house, and that's a good venue, man. Like that's a very good venue.
And where's that located at?
On Rayford Road.
Okay.
But they do a comedy night every Thursday, and it's like every other week. It's an open mic.
Is that an Irish spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Patty's,
Yeah. But Patrick Gibney owns it. He's a really good dude. But they do like every other week they'll do like an open mic. They call it the Comedy Couch, run by the Locals Comedy. Yeah. And every other week, besides that, they do like an actual book show. Yeah. So they have like traveling comedians come in and a feature and a headliner and then a couple of openers. Yeah. And but it's a good spot. It's a very good spot. Very good time. Now,
do you think this is probably the best the Fayetteville comedy scene has probably been since you've been in Fayetteville? Has there ever really been a comedy scene in Fayetteville?
There was like years and years ago. Like I actually had a friend named Steve who he was the host at Cagney's.
I remember Cagney's
years and years ago, man. Like and he was the host there, and he ended up being the original host at It's when It's opened. Yeah, and they had like a comedy thing there, and I think it was like 2007. He ended up killing himself. Oh, man. And that's a comedy thing too, man. A lot of people don't really get that.
Is that a thing in comedy?
Oh yeah,
like people killing themselves.
Lots of suicide.
What do they say is the motivational thing behind that?
It's I don't know. Like some people get out there and just try to make people laugh because they're not happy. I mean, in reality, like every clown is a sad clown. But that's sometimes it makes them feel better. Sometimes it makes you feel better just to make people laugh. But doesn't mean you're not depressed.
Have you ever did anything that you were just totally embarrassed by on stage?
I mean, I've gone pretty hard a few times. Like, I'm not gonna lie, and to where people were like, Jesus, like, I mean, and it was just shocking. People were just shocked, and I was like, shouldn't have done that, And I like a couple of times I knew better, and I was like, no, I'll do this callback to somebody else's joke. It'll play out, And I was like, but in the back of my head, I'm like, don't do it. This is Raleigh. It's not going to go over, and it did not go over.
And so you got to know like the different cities or how the atmosphere is. And how do you find that out though?
Trial and error. So
you just go out there, you find out like, oh, they don't like this shit. And let's go ahead and try some different stuff next time.
Excuse me. Like the funny thing is like, believe it or not, like I really thought Cary was going to be like kind of worse than Raleigh, and it is not, man. Like I said some shit in Cary, and people laughed. I was very shocked, honestly. Like Cary's actually a good spot. Like there's a place, Kimono Brewing. It's like a kombucha brewing place, but it's a really, really cool spot, and they let us say whatever. And it's a good spot. Like I go there about every Saturday. Okay. And they had a book show last night, but it's like book shows the first of each month, and then every Saturday after that it's open mic. Yeah. And but it's a fun spot.
And how do you find most of these places to perform at?
Well, I mean, again, social media,
or meeting about comedy clubs.
You just like you network. I mean, you meet people. And then, people, you go to different places, you meet people, you follow them, and then they have because a lot of people have open mics. There's a lot of open mics in Raleigh. Like, Raleigh, you can literally, on certain nights, you can hit 2 or 3 at a time. Like, you hit one, leave, go to another one, leave, go to another one. Yeah. We had, like, my friend Hunter has a place in Fuquay Arena called the Brick House, like I guest hosted last week, but they would have a time to where it's like, because it's like 25 minutes from Raleigh, so you could hit that and then go do Haymaker at like 10:30. And that's, a lot of people do that, go to this or this or this, and then and it's good, because it gives you the opportunity to try stuff in front of different crowds and the same night, so, and it's just the more you got to keep doing it,
So would you say comedians have no choice to kind of like help each other out and network with each other and tell each other about shows, unlike musicians who are always like competing with each other?
No, it's still competing, because I mean, there's a lot of competing. I mean, there's a lot of pettiness in comedy, but I mean, you should work together. Like, why wouldn't you? But I mean, it's always, I mean, you can have groups of people, that like kind of flock together or whatever, and you go here, you go here, you go here. Like a lot of comedians, we'll ride together, we'll carpool, save gas, and but I mean, at the end of the day, you're a lone wolf, I mean, it's you. I mean,
have you ever had other comedians call you out or anything?
Oh yeah.
And what do you do when that happens?
It depends on what it is for. I mean, I've had beefs with people. I mean, I've gotten physical altercations with people over comedy and stuff. I mean, it's just, it's regrettable, but I mean, it's just, I mean, it ain't all.
What do they typically get upset about? Like a joke you said or something, or?
I mean, I don't know, like not real. I mean, well, probably, because I do go kind of hard, but no, I mean, just other stuff like politic kind of stuff. Like, I mean, there's always.
Oh, when it's politics and religion is the two things that people seem to get really, really sensitive about.
And I don't go too hard about politics. Because it's like, it's just, I mean, it's kind of a losing battle, and a lot of people aren't there to listen to the news. They're there to laugh. And honestly, like, politics is not funny. I mean, if you look at the state of the world,
it ain't. And how often do you like implement like current affairs?
All the time. Like, that's my problem, is because like I host a lot, so you got to come up. I try to go topical a lot. And the problem with that is you lose material, because you can't. I can't do China balloon jokes. Today. Or. Sub blowing up jokes today, because it's out of the news, so people are like, oh yeah, I remember that time that happened. I mean,
what about when Jussie Smollett did what he did? Did you do any jokes about that?
No, I don't think.
Jussie Smollett has.
See, that was hilarious. I think that might have been right before I started.
Yeah, because he just lost his appeal, so he's actually got to do his time, which I think you should. Like, when you sit there and you fake a hate crime like that, you definitely should do time and whatnot.
See, that actually happened in town recently. Did you see that? Like, a bunch of people actually vandalized a couple of churches, and they did it just to kind of start something because they did it like it was funny because they painted swastikas, but they did it wrong. Like one of them was backwards, and it's like if you're gonna be racist, at least don't have dyslexia when you do it. I mean, like know what you're doing. But then they wrote Hamas on it, and it's like I don't know if you're really grasping that doesn't really kind of play, you know. I mean,
that's actually a subject I haven't really touched on none of my podcasts yet because that one seems to be getting people really bent out of shape right now.
But it was just weird because they literally just defaced these churches, and it was just some guys trying to start some stuff, and and it wasn't even like a hate crime actually thing. But I mean, I think Jesse Smollett was actually in town that day, so I don't not really. I think Subway was like 2:30 in the morning. I don't.
Yeah. So what's the final goal for Ryan Minton as a comedian? Like what do you feel like you want to be at as a comedian when it's all said and done?
I just like doing it, man. I mean, I just love doing it. And I mean, hey, if I can do good at it, then that's great. You know, if not, I don't care. I'll just keep doing it.
Now, typically, when you do content online, you just do clips from your shows.
Yeah. Or I'll just like make a post about something, you know, just make like because like a lot of comedians do that. I mean, everybody's like a Facebook comedian now, you know, but you also, most of them don't get on stage and do it, you know, that's the thing. It's like, you know, everybody thinks that they're a comedian until they don't get up on stage, you know, get up on stage and do it. You know, it's a whole different thing because it's like public speaking, you know, it ain't like being in a band. Like I was in bands for years in front of like a lot of people, you know, and it's not the same thing. Because you're one person up there, everybody's looking at you. It's like public speaking, you know. It's a whole different thing.
Would you say being a rapper on stage, being a comedian on stage, doing a comedy on stage, you got to be even way more braver? Like it's one of the bravest things to get up there and try to make people laugh. Because like you said, everybody can't probably. I've seen plenty of comedians, man, where I've never really thought Seinfeld was funny, and you know there was certain characters on there. Yeah, but what's my man?
See, the funny thing about Seinfeld is like Larry David, the guy that actually wrote the show with him, is actually a lot funnier. You know,
Everybody Loves Raymond. That one too.
Ray Romano.
I never really thought he was funny.
Yeah,
you know,
it's more like clean style.
I never really
got into that either. Yeah, like never really got into.
But you always hear like people laughing in the background like it's funny and whatnot. It's like, it can't be that funny.
Well, I mean, they did something right.
Yeah, they did something right. No, they did something right.
But there's an audience for pretty much everything.
Just like that's why I try to tell people about the music, you know, and they like, oh, these artists, I don't like their music, but there's fan base for everything. Soulja Boy got fan base, NBA Youngboy, you know, anybody can have fan base. You got to just go out there and explore the opportunities of that fan base.
Everybody's not going to like everything, you know.
Like, do you ever crack jokes in real life that are like too quite serious?
Oh yeah. And I mean, and then I'll take it to the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, because like that's basically what I'm doing is trying to get material. But I mean, I've been doing that all my life. Yeah. You know, like I told John jokes, like John Jones, like shout out John Jones, like I tell that dude jokes, and he's like, "Geez," he's like, "I am not supposed to be laughing." He's like, "But I am laughing." And I mean, I do that to him all the time. He's like, "Man," he's like, "Stop it," you know.
I don't know if this is a standard comedy question, man. This was like the question at the very end. Why did the chicken cross the road?
To get to the other side.
Is that a standard comedy question?
No, that's just an old school joke.
That's an old school joke? Yeah. What's the joke about that?
I mean, it's just an old joke. I mean, it's like, it's just like, that's one of those
joke they would just use.
It's like a one-liner.
One-liners?
Yeah. That's like I think that might be a Henny Youngman joke, who's like one of the old school comedians, but I am not sure about that.
What do you prefer, one-liners or like the storytelling kind of build up?
I mean, one-liners are actually a lot harder than you would think.
Yeah, because, I mean, you gotta be like.
But again, storytelling is a lot harder than you think too. You know? Yeah. I mean, there's certain ways to write jokes, but I mean, you don't have to go by that. I mean, you can actually tell the formula that people use. Like when you get into it a while, you're like, oh, okay, they read this book, or they're doing this. You know, they're using these steps. And some people don't do that. Some people are just natural comedians. I've seen people get up there and just talk. you know, the first time, and I was like, wow, you know, like they're just naturally funny.
How often you hear people recycling like other people's
a lot?
material?
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing about social media. Like, hell, I think I did that recently on accident. You know, it's like, because you don't maliciously steal somebody's material, but you might have something in the back of your head and be like, you know, and then the thing about that is like, bring it to somebody's attention, you know, be like, hey, I think that's my bit, or did you do, you know, or something. But I mean, I've seen people get called out like on stage and like fights almost happen, you know.
Yeah, because they stole other people's material.
Or no, it was like, I literally watched somebody call a guy out on stage like, that is a stolen joke, you know. And I thought they were going to fight in the parking lot. And the funny thing is it literally just got squashed the other day. The one guy like hit me up and was like, hey dude, if you see this guy, like tell him I said I'm sorry, you know.
So the comedian got upset that he called him out about the joke being stolen?
Yes, it was weird because it was something off of something that he had heard, and he literally was like, hey, that's a stolen joke. And then the guy admitted, he's like, yeah, you're right, you know. And then he went in on the guy, but I mean, at a certain point, technically, you are heckling. So then, you know, it turned,
and that's the thing, it's all fair game and open game once they start trying to bring their voice into the show, right? And start putting their 2 cents.
Well, I mean, it was another comedian too. So, but I mean, but it all got squashed. I mean, it was an open mic anyway. So, but it all got squashed, like, which that was a few months ago. And it literally just got squashed the other day. So
who were some of the other like big comedians around the Ville, like coming up, whatnot, that you really would have us look out for?
I mean, like look out for the Locals Comedy. And there's it's a group, and they do a lot of shows around here. And it's like Mitch Fowler, Mr. F, his dad, Tony Fowler, Brandon Dyer, Zach Blackfire, Taj Jones is really good. Does a lot of stuff in Raleigh. Jalen Montanez, he's going all over the place. He's hilarious. There's certain like John Paul Edmondson. He's like an up and coming person that like has been doing our spot for like a long time. There's like 910 Comedy. There's was like Gray Zone Comedy. It's like DeMarcus Gray and like Slim and Gerard Sidbury from Wilmington. There's a whole Wilmington scene too. And they're actually doing a show with some people from Wilmington in a couple of weeks at Patty's. And I think a few of them will come, you know, do like the mic with the headliner, Louis T. Dennis V. Forgot Dennis V. from Locals. But yeah,
that sound like a lot of names.
There's a lot of people around here.
It sounds like it's just like the rap scene, like just a lot. Yeah. Fayetteville's doing it good on the comedy scene.
And like a few years ago, it was just, I mean, I think and I never went to the Comedy Idiots. You know, I never went to Cagney's, and Cagney's used to do the touring comedy kind of stuff. I never went. And I mean, because I was doing a lot of band shit back then, and I just never went. And then I saw on Facebook that they were doing comedy at Patty's, and there was really nothing going on there. I mean, I think they used to run shows at I think 910 used to run shows at Dirtbag, and there were different places like Aladdin's has shows sometimes, like comedy shows. And Aladdin's is a really good spot. It's just it's weird because like they have an outside venue like in the back, and like their stage is like there's a tree, which is crazy, like growing, and then you just do comedy in front of the stage, and it's a sweet place. I mean, it's so nice, but not in the winter because you don't want to be out there in the winter. Because but they'll close it in on the other part. But I actually did a show with Maserati Santana.
Shouts out to Maserati.
Which is funny because a good friend of mine, Darnell Jones from Detroit, he's like an old school comic. Actually was hosting that night, and he hit me up and was like, hey, come to this. And I was like, I ain't paying, you know, because he was hosting. I was like, I ain't paying to get in or whatever. He's like, no, I got you in free. I was like, cool. And he's like, you're going up. I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, and you're going up first. So hurry up and get here. And I'm like, shit. So I didn't have time to be nervous. And it was a weird crowd. But I mean, he kind of threw me to the wolves too. But it was funny because he's like, nah, dude, you got it, you know. And it's a good show. I mean, it was a fun night. It was rappers and stuff too, which is funny because it was like really not comedy. And dude's like, grow up, you know. And it's like, okay. And I went pretty hard. Like I ain't gonna lie. And people were just like, but then I looked. I got a bunch of followers on Instagram that night. You know, I was like, wow, that's crazy, you know. And then Mozzie actually put me on his show, you know, and he was like, dude, he's like, I think that was hilarious. He came out to White Rabbit the next night, you know, and watched us, and then put me on his show, you know, and I thought that was pretty cool. So.
Now, do you think social media has helped people making it in the comedy scene nowadays?
Makes it a lot easier, but it floods.
It's oversaturated like everything else. Yeah, because everybody thinks they can do it because you got the access to the internet to try to do your own comedy skits and whatnot.
You have like old school comics that like hate that kind of stuff, because there used to be a way you did comedy, like it was you went to open mics. You did this, like I've had people tell me, you know, like this is how it was in my day. You know, they wouldn't even look at you to be booked if you haven't been doing open mics for 2 years. You know, you had to been doing it for at least 2 years to actually get booked. Wow. I've gone to certain places in certain towns. Okay, open mic, 4 minutes, right? Every time I go back, the same people do the same 4 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Some people frown on that, but that's how you learn. You know, I try to do.
When you say the same 4 minutes, they do the same set over and over again till they like master it.
Yes, and that's what you need to do. I mean, that's what you're. I mean, that you need to do that. I mean, it's you're polishing it is what you're doing. And I mean, I try to do different stuff. I mean, because I mean, like I said, I host a lot, so I mean, I try to do different stuff. And I mean, it ain't all winners, because I mean, I have to do so much time every week. I mean, if you got this many comedians, you got to do like a couple of minutes in between everybody. So man, you're just. You know, and I mean it gets stale after a while.
Doesn't the big comedians kind of do the same sets? You know, a lot of times over and over again.
Yeah, well, they do it, but they do it in different places.
Yeah, different places. Yeah. So if you're funny, it's going to work no matter what.
But here's the thing: it's like people, you know, like your Dave Chappelle or like your Louis C.K. and stuff like that. I mean, it takes a long time to get an hour. Yeah, you know, they're doing an hour. Okay. But see, what you don't see, what nobody else sees, is they can go to any place that they want to. Okay, they can go to any mic anywhere. Okay, and be like, "Let me do time." Okay, and they can also have people's phones taken. You know, they can be like, "No, nobody records," because you don't want people seeing that stuff until you're ready for it to be presented. Yeah, you know, so
is that a big thing in comedy where like people like no phones and stuff?
Yeah, because I mean, you don't want most of the time, if you're putting up clips and stuff like that, it's material that people have already heard. You don't want people hearing your stuff because you don't want people to take it, but you also don't want it to be stale before you do it in front of them.
So the only loud phones if it's like something that's been done like constantly and everybody's.
Well, you don't want people recording you at all. No. Pictures is cool, you know, but I mean, I've seen quite a few comedians be like, "I know you're not
recording at comedy shows at all."
You're not supposed to do that. Okay. I mean, that's very much frowned upon. Like, and I mean, honestly, like if you put that stuff up, like I've seen people put clips up, you know, of people doing comedy, you know, like professionals and stuff like that. They'll take you down. Like like Instagram or Facebook will take it down because it's copywritten. Yeah, you know, it's somebody else's.
So
material.
Only y'all can record y'all's like footage for y'all's material to post, but nobody's really technically allowed to be.
Yeah, you don't really want to be recording people because you don't want material getting out that people haven't seen.
I get that.
And it just because it can stagnate, you know, and people be like, "Oh, I saw that on Instagram,"
and it keeps it more of exclusivity.
Yeah, but see, you want to record yourself. I mean, that's a good thing is because you want to record yourself. Watch that as many times until you find out.
See where you can
get your pacing. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's up.
And we also will record for each other sometimes. We'll be like, you know, people have tripods or whatever, and like 2 or 3 people use the same tripod, or somebody like I've had a couple of people ask me to actually record them. You know, like, "Hey, can you record my set and send it to me?" And I've had people record me, like, you know, because I didn't want to, you know, set up my phone or whatever. Like, you know, I was doing something, and so I mean, it just, you know, but.
And that's another good reason why, you know, y'all need to kind of stick together and network and help each other out. You know what I'm saying? Because people need to be helping record other people's stuff while you're on set. Somebody record yours while somebody else is up. You help record theirs and things of that nature.
I mean, you should always be helping people, man. Like, I mean, there's no reason not to. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Everybody, I mean, but sometimes it don't work out like that, but I mean, it should.
So how big you think the comedy scene could go in Fayetteville? It seems like it could pass up the music scene.
It's been doing like really well the past couple of years, man. I mean, it's like it's starting to blow up because they're like, I mean, there really wasn't anything for years, and like 910 Comedy was doing stuff, and that was actually before I got into it. But then pandemic, you know, kind of squashed
everything down.
Yeah, and see, a lot of comics, like that's why it's saturated now because
everybody went to the internet.
Yes,
They
and
had
then
to run to
everybody's
the
like,
internet.
bam,
Yeah.
and it just is an explosion. And there's a lot of old school comics that are like, yeah, you're Facebook comedians.
Yeah,
you know,
I had
you're
a
not
good year that year because all my customers, they couldn't do spend money on shows, festivals, so they had to spend all online. So that makes sense that all of the comedians said, "Oh, we're just gonna run to just doing online content," and then now, like you said, it's totally oversaturated where everybody's doing that one thing, which that don't work for everybody.
Yeah.
It's like I hate when people see something like, "Oh, 50 Cent made all the mixtapes. Let me try to do it too." Doesn't work.
No.
Different folks, different strokes, and whatnot. So, what were you doing during the pandemic?
Just
writing and
no, that was actually before I started.
Oh, that was before you started.
Yes, that was before I even started.
That's right. Yeah. That's before you started.
Yep. And
so you wasn't really affected by that.
Nah, I mean, it didn't even bother me, man. Like,
and as soon as you got thrown to the wolves, you just been going super hard at this.
Yes. I mean, that was like what, July? Not this July, but July before last.
Yeah.
And I mean, I try to do it several times a week.
Several times a week.
Sometimes a few times a night. Sometimes. I mean, I try. I mean, and most of the time that's out of town. But I mean, I've done two. I might have done three.
And what's your next one tomorrow?
Yeah,
Monday
White Rabbit.
nights?
Yeah, White Rabbit every Monday at White Rabbit.
Where's that located at?
It's on Fort Bragg Road. It's right next to Baldino's. It's right around the corner.
Wait, it's just right up here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yo, I'm definitely gonna come check you out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come check you out. And what time is that?
8-ish. I mean, it's like
8-ish?
Yeah, because we try to. Sometimes I'll let it run because I normally try to start about 8, but I start generally about 8:10 or 8:15.
I feel very ashamed and upset myself right now. That
It
was that.
It's so funny because like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that place, And it's like, and we used to do Red Monkey, which is right down the street next to Haters, and then they ended up closing that down, but the same people own it, so they were like, well, we're just going to move you to White Rabbit. And we're like, okay.
And where? Okay, so Baldino's,
right next to Baldino's,
on the right side or left side.
Well, depending on if you're looking at Baldino's.
Like where are Baldino's, and Baldino's is across from that
Tiny Town.
Yeah, that closed down.
To the left.
To the left of that. Okay, yeah. I'll get
It used to be Big Harry's years ago.
Okay. Yeah. I feel ashamed right now. Because see, anybody knows me, I don't got a car. So like if it's not walking distance and nobody's giving me a ride, it's like And
it's a fun spot, but like I said, man, it's hit or miss. Like sometimes we have a good crowd, we'll have like people there, but then there'll be, a bunch of comedians. Sometimes there's like 2 or 3 comedians and then like nobody. I mean, it's because it's a Monday, I mean, and now it's December. So, I mean, I think stuff's kind of dwindling down for the year, but I mean, we're always there, trying to keep it going. I mean, trying to give people an opportunity to try new material or work on their old stuff. It doesn't matter, but we do have people from coming from Durham sometimes, from Raleigh, I've had people from Wilmington, people from Southern Pines, just come out to do comedy.
Yeah.
And there's ours on Monday, which is White Rabbit. There's Hecklers on Tuesday, hosted by DeMarcus Gray. Aisha, the Closet Exchange on Wednesdays. There's Patty's on Fridays. Every now and again, there's something on a Friday. And there's a open mic at Patty's at 6 on every other Saturday, hosted by the Locals Comedy.
Yeah, who's the big female comedian around here? Is there one?
I mean, there's you talking about in Fayetteville?
Yeah.
Well, there's a few female comedians like Aisha. She's really funny. Heather I can't remember how to say her name. I'm sorry, Heather, from the Locals Comedy.
Well, sorry, Heather.
Yeah, but she's
we're definitely trying to give you the shout out.
Yeah,
so.
And she's hilarious, and she hasn't even been doing it that long. She's just like a natural.
Yeah.
There's not like a whole lot of women comics in Fayetteville. There's a lot in Raleigh, man. There's a lot in Wilmington.
So what's the comedy scene like in Raleigh? Is it really popping up there?
Yeah. There's a lot of spots in Raleigh, like Good Nights, and there's Comedy Works, Vault, hosted by Adam Riasta. There's a lot of places. I mean, there's some of them you can literally hit like I said 3 in one night, which is really cool. Like Haymaker, when it comes back, that's a good spot. That's a fun place. That's just a really fun place. Yeah, there's a lot of Wilmington too, man. There's a lot going on in Wilmington.
Well, Wilmington's a nice area too.
Dead Crow, man. Like Dead Crow's the big club down there. I did that once, and it's just that's a big room, you know. Like,
have you done anything out of state yet?
No, working on it.
I might get you know, my guy up in Baltimore, you know, Byron Brooks. Shouts out to Byron Brooks. You know, they do a lot of different comedy shows up there, and I could definitely, you know, plug you in with him. And you know, he also been talking about trying to come back down here and do some stuff. I think I heard him say something about open up at a comedy club down here or something. I could be wrong, you know, because he's from Fayetteville. He used to do the cover band back in the days. I worked with him back in my Fazoli's days and whatnot. You know, shouts out to my old Fazoli's crew. But yeah, is there anything? We're gonna wrap it up here. We got about a few minutes left before we hit the hour. I'll try to keep it under the hour, so you know we can load it up to the gram and all that. It won't be too big of an interview. But anything you want to shout out or before you go? We got your Instagram. I'll pop it up again.
Yeah, just got the Instagram. You know, I'm on Facebook. It's just my personal page or whatever. But
you got a YouTube? Are you doing anything on YouTube?
Not yet, because like I said, I'm working on getting a bunch of clips to where I can put it up there, because I don't think I'm as cancelable on YouTube. So,
but I think you'll do well, man.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
You pump out your shorts. Yeah, you know, just pump your clips out. Just like this is the thing you got to realize, man. The hate engagement is just as important as the lover, you know, the love and the fans and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? There's no such thing as bad engagement. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, it's like in comedy, like, you know, people are like talking about shows or whatever, and they're like, you know, people like, do you get booed and stuff like that? I was like, I've never got booed, which is crazy. But that's not even a bad thing, because you're at least, you know, getting a response. You know, that's, you know, like you can get laughs, you can get booed. Like, what you don't want is nothing.
How often do you hear boos at a show?
I really don't. Like, yeah, I mean, it's like Patty's, man. Like, Patty's is a good spot, man. They're like, a lot of people are like very respectful, you know, that stuff. And like, when you're at open mics and stuff, man, it's like, it don't matter. Like, half the time you're at bars and stuff, people are gonna talk.
Yeah, an open mic, you should really be real respectful. It's not like you.
No, man. Like, half the time people aren't paying attention because if you're at a bar, you're at a bar. You know, you can't tell people to be worst it's a bar. You know, you can't be like, hey, shut up. People are doing comedy. They're like, I'm here drinking. I don't care about the comedy. You know, but the worst part is when you're doing like an open mic and people are playing pool. Yeah, it's like, and there was this place they would do a mic at Charlie Mike's on what is it on where was Charlie Mike's? Riley Road, I think, on Riley Road. Yeah, over by the Thai Pepper or whatever. And we did an open mic one night. There was like maybe 8 comics. Okay, they were doing pool league that night, so they had several pool tables going. Okay, so 4 or 5 people get up there and they're like, and it's just like pool. I got up there and I'm loud as hell anyway. Yeah, you know, I don't even need a mic. I am loud, so I just got up there and was just loud as hell. And like, they turned around and were looking, and then they're like, we're going back to play pool. It's like, and then my boys like Zach Blackfire he killed it after that. He made them turn around and pay attention, you know, and they actually did start paying attention after that. He was the last comic, but so 5 people went up and just literally nobody even paid attention, you know. Man. And then I got there and they kind of paid attention, and then Zach went up there and killed it, and that was a funny night. So, and then they stopped doing it, I think 2 times after that, because
that don't make sense. Pool. You know, having the pool tournament going on while you're doing the comedy thing. I think it was just a booking error. Yeah, like they just did it. Because, open mics are open mics. I mean, I've seen some crazy open mics, you know, like just people just throw, you know, here or there or whatever. And I've seen open mics where there was nobody there. And people generally aren't really going to watch it. I mean, it's mostly comedians at open mics, you know. Yeah. And, I mean, that's kind of how it is. Yeah. Well, we about to wrap it up. I want to thank y'all for joining us. Me and my man Ryan Minton. Check him out. White Rabbit tomorrow. It's on Fort Bragg Road. Yep. I'm definitely gonna go out there and check it out. Definitely in walking distance. Appreciate you stopping by, and we'll come out there and we're gonna see what the Ryan Minton skills is like, man. And you know, I'm one of those guys. Like, I usually have to watch comedy from the home, because if I watch like Dave Chappelle or something, I got snot pouring out the nose and stuff like that because he's so damn funny. Well, I ain't that funny. I can't watch. I could never watch Patrice O'Neal live. I need like a whole roll of toilet paper for it, man. It's just because when I laugh, I really, really like laugh. So once again, I'll thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Paul Pickett Podcast. My man Ryan Minton, check him out. Funny as hell, and we out. Peace.
I